Hi everyone. We are going to look at two-step algebra equations today. Um, Two steps are just, well, one step more than doing a one-step equation. And they are usually there's an adding and subtracting component and a multiplying and dividing component. And so if we go back to the way my way of teaching algebra, which is what's bothering the variable, this time there are two things bothering the variable. There's the 2 and there's the 4. They're both bothering the variable. So now you have to ask yourself, which one am I going to get rid of first? And the easiest way to do this is to pick off the loosest connection first. All right? So think reverse gemma. All right? When we do order of operations, whether you use gemma or BEDMAS, we start off with the tightest connection, which is this grouping, because that's what somebody's come in and said, yes, do this first. This is the first thing to do. This is the most tightest connection. And then exponents and radicals, then multiplication, division, and finally addition and subtraction. And when we're doing algebra, we're trying to isolate the variable. We work in the opposite direction, so we start with the loosest. It's like picking the flea off of something. You pick it off you're going to snap it off with your finger. So we're going to do the addition subtraction first. So in this case, we're going to get rid of this minus 4 by adding 4. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. And then what we're left with is 2r equals 8. Now we know how to do that. We're going to divide this by 2, and we're going to divide this by 2. And we're left with r equals 4. Okay? Let's do another example. We have m over 3, or m divided by 3, plus 4. We want to do the addition subtraction first, so we're going to get rid of this plus 4 by subtracting 4 from both sides. And then we're going to cross it off. I want to remind you that we are subtracting the 4 from the whole side. Okay, we just happen to write it underneath the plus 4 because that's why we're doing the minus 4, is because of the plus 4. And if we write it right there, it just it's easy to cancel it out and easy to see what's going on and why we did things the way we did. All right, we have remaining an m over 3 on the left and a 4 on the right. And now we're going to multiply this side by 3 so we can get rid of that 3. We're going to multiply this side by 3, and we're left with m equals 12. Okay? The other type of question we see when we're doing two-step equations is one where there are brackets. And there are two ways to solve a question that has brackets, and you do have to know both ways. So we'll do the distribution first. So there's this thing called the distributive property, which says that if I have a times b plus c, this equals a times b plus a times c. And I will show you some things in class with paper to help you make sense of this, but hopefully you have seen this before. I find that for some students it's really helpful, instead of having it written like this, to think of it as I have 2 times m plus negative 3. Now I will use plus and pretty much interchangeably because they do mean the same thing. This means I have an m and I have a negative 3. This is completely equivalent to this. It's just written this way, it might make a little more sense. Okay, so you might have seen these rainbow lines. Sometimes they're called water bomb lines, and that's to remind me that I need to go 2 times the m. So I have 2 times m, and I have 2 times negative 3, and together that equals 14. So if I clean that up a little bit, I have 2m minus 6 equals 14. Oh, and now it looks just like one of the questions from up above, and I know how to do that. I'm going to add 6 here. I'm going to add 6 here. I now have 2m equals 20, and then I'll divide this side by 2, and I'll divide this side by 2. and I end up with m equals 10. Okay? So normally when you're learning, okay, when you're learning, you should write out this line. You should include this one, okay? When you're learning. When you get better, you'll skip both of these two lines. You'll go directly from this first line to this one here. But not yet, okay? Wait until you're getting these 100% right before you start skipping steps, okay? All right, the other way we can do this is we can divide first. So one of the things about brackets in algebra is you have to imagine that you actually can't see inside the brackets. It's like if you've ever done the experiment where you put an egg in vinegar and the shell dissolves, but you're left with the membrane of the egg. And so you can it's translucent, so you can kind of see there's something in there, but you don't really know what it is until you pop the membrane and see what's actually inside there. And I want you to think about brackets the same way when we're doing algebra. You can't see inside the brackets until you've gotten rid of them, okay? I know there's a variable in there, but that's all I know, all right? So on the left side here, we got rid of the brackets by distributing the 2. On this side, we're going to do that by dividing by 2, because this is like 2 times something. Don't know what it is. But if it's 2 times something, I can divide that by 2, and then the 2's are going to cancel out. Okay? So if I divide this side by 2, and I divide this side by 2, those 2's cancel out, and I have remaining an m minus 3 on the left side and a 7 on the right side. So now I'm going to add 3, and I now have m equals 10. So I get the same answer both ways, which is, of course, the point. It would be a bad thing if we didn't. Is one way better than the other? Well, they both have their uses. The dividing first, you're only going to use if it divides in a way that makes sense. So for example, if this was, so don't write this down. This is just sort of my chicken scratch here. If the question was 2 times m minus 3 equals 15, and I were to divide by 2 and divide by 2, well, now I've put a fraction into the question. Why would I want to do that to myself, right? So I wouldn't divide by 2 if it equaled 15. Okay, it's just making things more complicated. So the distribution is always a good option, but sometimes it's a little faster to do the division first. You do need to do both. So when you're doing the practice work on this, it does tell you at the top of at least one of the pages to do some questions distributing first and some questions dividing first, so make sure you do that. When you have your quiz and test on this, you will be required to do it both ways. Okay. One other thing that I just want to show you, and again, don't write this down because this is just sort of for the sake of completeness. What was my question? 2 times m minus 3 equals 14. Okay. Okay. What would happen if I tried to add 3? Okay. Well, the problem is that I don't actually have a minus 3. I have 2 of those. So if I add 3 to the left side, and I add 3 to the right side, and I try and cancel those out, I can't do that. Okay? You can't do that because you have 2 of them. You can't cancel out anything that's inside the brackets until you get rid of the brackets. Okay? It just doesn't work. Okay? And I know I said you can do anything you want if you do it correctly, and that's true. Because if I remember that what I have here is 2 minus 3 equals 14, and I add 3 to the left side and I add 3 to the right side, and I write it like this, well, now you can see that I can't add the 3 to the 3 in the brackets. That doesn't make sense. Now I have to distribute this first. So I have 2m minus 6 plus 3 equals 15. So 2m minus 3 equals 15. And And now I'm going to add 3 again to that side, and I get, uh-oh. Oh, 14 plus 3 is not 15. 14 plus 3 is definitely not 15. I was getting the wrong answer there. That wasn't going to work. It's 17. So this is 17. And so now I have 2m equals 20. I'm going to divide that by 2, divide that by 2, and I do get m equals 10. But adding this 3 up here didn't help me. It worked. I did it when I did it correctly. It was legal, and I do end up with the same answer, but it made it a lot more complicated to do the question. Okay? All right. All right, I'm going to leave that there. Go do the practice work, and I'll see you in the next video or in class. Bye.